Hi, this is Brian Funk. The best way to get my latest work, whether it's Ableton Live packs, sample packs, tutorials, templates, books, whatever it is I'm working on, is to join the Music Production Club. It's a lot like a Patreon. It's a monthly subscription service that ensures you get my latest work before anyone else sent directly to your inbox. Your membership gets you access to our Discord server where you can join like-minded producers in supporting each other, answering questions, setting up collaborations, and more. You'll get access to the Music Production Club samples folder, and you'll get access to our live online classes where we will discuss various music production topics and have a little Ask the Ableton Certified Trainer question and answer session. As soon as you join, you get my Rhythm Drums sample pack, my Ableton Live pack archive of 200 Ableton Live packs, the arrangement templates, the live performance and Ableton Live video course, the Ableton Live performance template, the Music Production Club exclusives Ableton Live pack, which features sounds you can get nowhere else, and my What Bob Ross Teaches Us About Music Production book. If you're interested, head on over to brianfunk.com/MPC to join. This episode of the Music Production Podcast is sponsored by Varesky Mastering. The mastering process is the last thing that happens to your music before it reaches your listeners, so treat it with the respect it deserves. Mastering engineer Philippe Varesky gives you a mastering service that revolves around your needs to put the final touches on your artistic expression. Varesky Mastering prides itself on forming a relationship with its clients. Felipe takes the time to understand your artistic vision so that your song has the proper balance, movement, loudness, sequencing, dynamics, so that your artistic vision is fully reached. In a world where those final touches to your music is more and more being done by algorithms and artificial intelligences, Varesky Mastering will give your work the personal touch it needs. Want to be heard? Go to vareskymastering.com for more information. That's VARESCHI mastering.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. On today's show, I have Jordan Rudess. Probably a man that needs no introduction to many of you. Jordan is a keyboardist, music technologist, and composer. He was voted the best keyboardist of all time by Music Radar, which is incredible. Congratulations for that. You're the keyboardist of Dream Theater, Liquid Tension Experiment, which is also coming out with an album on March 26th, which we should keep an eye out for. And we've also got Wizdom Music, which is where you're pushing the boundaries of music technology and giving us all lots of new fun instruments to play with in all new, exciting, futuristic forms. Jordan, you are pushing and have pushed so many boundaries in so many areas. It's a real honor to get a chance to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks so much. And it's so nice to be here with you. Yeah, I can't believe we haven't done this before.
Right.
You know, as you mentioned when we were setting up for all this, that we have so many similar interests, and I'm sure we know a lot of the same people and running in the same circles.
Right.
So nice to have this opportunity to chat.
We're even on the same island right now, right?
Right. Amazing.
So, fun personal fact for you. My wife says that Dream Theater is probably the band she's seen more than any other band.
Wow.
Probably,
that's fantastic.
Aside from things I've been playing in. We saw you play a bunch of times now. My brother-in-law is a huge Dream Theater fan. He really wanted to come by and say hello to you, but he's on quarantine, unfortunately. So shout out to Anthony. He wanted to say hi to you. We'd seen you at the Paramount in Huntington, the Beacon Theater, and a really cool show we saw was Tarrytown Music Hall. It was just you and a solo act, which was really exciting, a really nice, intimate concert.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that was a fun show, right? And that theater's not too far from where I live, so yeah. Talking about that is making me miss the live performance stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a long time. I do have some shows actually booked, solo shows in May though, which hopefully they'll happen, and I'm looking forward to those.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally, right? It's been hard for all of us musicians, even just playing music with other people, in the same
Yeah.
room.
Although the technology for, jamming together, playing together is improving so fast. A lot of my friends are even working on like solutions for that. Actually, the other day I had a jam with my buddy Jesse Chappelle, who is the inventor of apps like Thumb Jam and Drum Jam, and he has like one of the biggest apps in the iOS store, which is a tuning app, been like number one for like years. But he just actually put together some software called Sonobus, Sonobus, and it enabled us to have a jam with me just on my iPad playing GeoShred, him in his house playing GeoShred, and wirelessly, jamming through the network with his
Really?
software. So we used a software called AUM, which is pretty popular software for enabling all kinds of interesting operations using iOS instruments. You can do layering, you can run MIDI into it. It's very powerful. So in this case, we both were on GeoShred, and we bussed the sound through AUM to Sonobus, which was on one of the channels. And that enabled us, by setting up a group, enabled us to shoot the stuff over the network. And it worked so beautifully. The sound was so clear.
Really?
So I encourage anybody who's listening, it's free software, to check out Sonobus. It runs on the desktop, it runs on iOS. And, Jesse's a great programmer and just did a beautiful job of doing that. So it's one of, there's other things certainly, but the audio was so good and it was so fast and such a nice interface that in this world we live in, where we want to be connected with people, and pretty much the best way, maybe sometimes the only way, is through online. It's a good thing to know about.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because that's been a big struggle where the latency and the quality has been really kind of prohibitive.
Yeah, so he really did a lot of work on the quality. You still need, obviously, to have a good internet connection, because if you don't, it's not going to happen. But if you have good wireless, you can play, and the sound can be really clean, even with the defaults. The problem with all that stuff is you're up against kind of like the law of physics, because there's going to be latency when the sound has to travel, certain distances. So, even with his, which is great, if you had a drummer and you were trying to play really in time, not so much. But what we were doing was just kind of like, almost doing a more, not ambient, but just kind of a looser jam between instruments. And it was very nice. Right. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, if you let go of the precise timing a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't, we weren't like locked into a particular grid, and that's helpful headspace to be in when interacting through network audio.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out, because I'm an Ableton certified trainer, and we have a group of us where we kind of keep in touch, and no one could really find the solution, for this.
Yeah, and it's a great way to work with people. Yeah, it's fantastic. We did a whole writing session for vocal melodies on it, where we were at 3 different locations, and I was able to play, and everybody was able to chime in and hear. I can run my Logic session, and they can hear that. And just by putting Sonobus on the output of the Logic thing, I'm sure you could do the same in Ableton. But yeah, great for stuff like that. And you can record. Like if I was sharing with you, you could record the whole thing. You could compress. You could add some effects to your voice. You could, there's a bunch of things in there that are kind of like really nice for the experience.
Right. It is a funny concept, because we have to take sound and make it travel over the network faster than the speed of sound in order for it to actually work.
Right. But hey, there's lots of cool possibilities to play with.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I've noticed you've been really active, especially since lockdown happened. Your YouTube channel has been, you must have done 100 videos in the last year, really getting stuff out. And I was kind of curious to ask you, so many people have had a lot of trouble figuring out what to do as live playing has shut down, and artists have really had to find new avenues to work.
Totally. Well, yeah. I mean, for me, my whole life is music, and ever since I was a kid, the kind of the way that I got so deeply involved with, playing was that it became kind of almost like an emotional, spiritual, if you will, outlet for me to play the piano and to make music. And, it was so important to just my being on this planet. So when this whole thing hit and the world kind of locked down, of course, I'm going to go right to my music to get my feelings out. And of course, to want to share, with other people. I mean, I use music very much as like a healing tool. I mean, yeah, I play prog-metal and I play all kinds of different styles, but a lot of what I'm interested in, and a lot of what music is for me, is a way to kind of almost tune up my own self, and and that's so important to me. But I also love to share that. So if I can do that, if I can, sit and make music, and it makes me feel really great and giving me some like healing, if I can share that with you or anybody else, that's so wonderful. So what happened is that when the world closed down, I began to do a lot of sharing, and I would just simply put my iPhone down on the piano, on the side of the piano. And, the iPhone has, good video, good microphones. Yeah. It's like really quick, easy way to do things. And every day I would go in and I would just kind of play my heart out, if you will, and just share. And people really were responsive to it. And I was getting a lot of messages. Thank you so much for the music. And that meant a lot to me. And that was really awesome. About 50 shows in or so, 50 times, maybe even in a row where I just played, I thought to myself, well, this is so wonderful. It feels so good. But the problem with this is that, we're in a culture right now where people think that music is free. And that's not a great message to be sending out. So as much as I loved playing and sharing, and the musician person part of me just wants to give it all away for free because music is so important to people, I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. This is not cool. So I kind of like told everybody on Facebook as I was playing the last few times, I said, you know what? I'm going to move to a platform which will enable me to actually allow you to support me and, do this in a different way. If you're really into this, then come to this new platform. And I figured out that Patreon was a really good platform for that, because Patreon, of course, is a way for a creator to reach directly to their audience. So I thought, okay, I'm going to move this, and the people who really want to be part of it can be patrons, right? So about 8 months ago, I started a Patreon, and with that kind of message in mind. And really, honestly, the message was, hey, everybody realize that this is a very difficult time for musicians. There's no touring. A lot of musicians make a good percentage of their money on the road, if not all of it. And no matter who you are as a musician, if you're a rock musician, jazz musician, film score, television scores, because of streaming and all that, your income has significantly dropped. It sucks. I mean, I don't personally spend a lot of time like hammering that, but I have friends, of course, who do, and who are passionate about, getting that message out, and really angry and all that. But there's a reality there. So my messaging is more like, hey, like if you love music, if you love whatever artist, figure out ways to support that artist, because otherwise the music you love is going away.
Right.
It ain't going to be happening because everybody needs to eat.
Yeah.
So in doing that, I'm like, and check out my Patreon, because that's, I'm a musician too here. And, it does matter. And the other part about Patreon for me is that as somebody who's passionate about sharing, it opened up an avenue for me to share freely. So I do something cool. I've got a new little instrument that I'm playing. I can post a video, to my heart's content, and feel like, okay, this is cool. I got people who are so into it. They're giving back. How wonderful is that? It's a great thing. And still, to conclude this kind of this chapter of our discussion, what I do is when I do a stream, like a couple times a week, I try to do a stream like for the patrons. But whenever I do, for the most part, I go out to YouTube and I go out to Facebook for the first 10 minutes or so, just to say, hey, everybody, I know you're there. Here's some music. Enjoy it. If you're really into this, support musicians, check out my Patreon, and that's kind of like where I'm at right now with that.
I think it's a great move because, so many musicians are still trying to figure out how to survive now that people don't buy albums anymore, right?
Yeah,
So the
right.
answer was touring, and then that got taken away. And for someone like you to go out there with your following, you're introducing them to this as well. You're saying, hey, this is an option, and I'm not the only one out there doing this.
Right. I mean, Patreon was around for a while before I got into it, and I would always have it like kind of corner of my vision, like, what's that? That seems like really, really cool. And finally, with this, incentive, kind of like to do this, I was like, well, that seems like the best option to do this. After literally 50 free Facebook shows in a row, I was like, okay, there's got to be another way to do this. And Patreon turned out to be a really good way to do it. And I'm enjoying it. It's really great. I just find that the people, one of the things about it is beyond just my sharing music with these people and stuff. It's the ability to be in direct contact with everybody is really cool, because I like people and I like connecting with people, but it's really impossible for me or anybody else that has a following to keep up with Messenger and Instagram and Twitter messages and the messages are coming in from every app, and people are trying to reach me because they want me to hear their music. They want to ask questions, and it's all great. It's all nice. They're excited about, the opportunity to meet someone who could give them some advice or to hear their music and an endorsement or whatever it is. I understand it, but I can't respond to everybody because I just can't. But this is an opportunity for me to be able to connect with people and for them to connect with me. That is a clear channel. So if you really want to get through to me, this is a great way to do it. I can check my messages every morning, and one of the patrons says, I'm interested in Arranger keyboards, and what do you know about them? Or, how's the new Nautilus keyboard from Korg? Or does it do, 16-part combinations or whatever it is? And then I can take a little time. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, absolutely. I'll connect you with my friend Eric, who's a Korg specialist. He happens to be a patron as well, and he's here for you. Like that's the other really cool thing about it, is within the community, with this cool community. Now I have like guys from Roland and guys from Korg, and there, there's people out there who all want to help, and it's a great channel for that. So that's a nice thing about this particular, setup.
Yeah, it allows you to offer some really like personalized interaction. I mean, you have one-on-one calls. You have, listen to your song and for feedback. I mean, you just couldn't get that years ago.
Fun. Yeah, one of the great things about it, and interesting to me to learn what really interests people. Like, I put up educational stuff. I'll put up how to play scales and all this stuff, and that's some people really value that. But the most interaction I get is like when I do something like, hey guys, here's a song from an album from this album that I'm putting together, but I don't have a name for it. Can you help me think of a name for this?
Wow.
And like everybody chimes in. Everybody wants to be a part of it because it's fun. And hey, some of these names and some of the things that people come up with are great. So I'm like, awesome. I got a great name for my tune, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, well, that's, music becomes part of people's life. After you put out your music, it becomes part of their life, their experience, their memories. And how cool is it that they can get in a little bit earlier? And
right. It's so different than the old days, right? Where the famous musician was on their throne, in the kingdom, and you couldn't reach them for, it just seems so like totally mysterious. And there was some magic to that. Like, wow, they're like in the clouds and surrounded by glitter in your mind. And like it's impossible to get anywhere near them. In this case, in these days, it's not really like that. It's kind of like you want to be able to interact and feel closer to the artist that you love. I mean, God, but like in the old days, if I could like ask Keith Emerson a question, or Rick Wakeman, or Patrick Moraz, or any of those guys that were on this throne, to me that would have been mind-blowing. I literally was so hypnotized by that kind of perception that I thought, and I remember this feeling, that the keyboards that they were playing were unattainable by any mere mortal. Like they must be playing instruments that I couldn't possibly get.
Right.
Like they wouldn't have in the store. Like these instruments
got them on the mountaintop somewhere.
Right, only on the mountaintop available to them with custom little elves that were making their synthesizers, you know. Of course, I met all these guys years later, and you know, they're all human beings, and, you know, and they're playing instruments that I could get. So there, some of that mystery, you know, cleared up. But
it's
definitely
funny
perception has changed. Yeah,
I grew up, you know, listening to music, and it never occurred to me that if I got a guitar, that's my first instrument. If I had a guitar, I could play the songs I heard on the radio. And it wasn't until I was 14 years old, and this has never occurred to me. One of my friends came over with his guitar. He'd just been learning. He showed me Enter Sandman by Metallica.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe like we could do that on the guitar. And that spark of excitement fueled me. And that's why I'm talking to you right now.
It's so awesome, yeah.
But you're right. It was like, it just seemed like so unattainable. Like to me, rock stars were just chosen ones. And
yeah, or that made me think you probably like plugged in like a really cool distortion pedal and went, oh my God, that's the sound. That really is the sound of Eddie Van Halen or something. And then somebody says, yeah, well, that's the pedal he uses. And you go, wow, okay, I'll figure out the riff.
You have it here?
Right.
It's on the shelf?
You'll sell that to me?
Where's the contract with the devil?
Right.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Totally.
I think it's a really cool thing that you've done by embracing that and letting people in. And you're always the first one when some new gear comes out, whether it's like an instrument or a new app. There's Jordan Rudess, and he's showing how it's done.
I got this thing. You see this?
It's the Artiphone, right?
Yeah, I've been having fun with it. It's really, really fun. It's very sensitive. It's really responsive to my fingers. And it has this thing where you can move it around. And let's see if I go to, of course, I'm not wearing my glasses, but I think if I go, yeah, I need more light to show you this. Hold on. All right, so let's say I go to a bass sound. You kind of move it, or even move your finger on the. Very cool. And what's actually really great about it, well, it has built-in speakers. The sound is all built in, and this is not an Orba commercial, but I just happened to get this, speaking of technology, and I really think it's great. There's a very solid feel to it. And what I love about it, being into this kind of thing, is the touch. Like, it's so sensitive. I just put my finger on it, and it's there for me. And it's also velocity sensitive. So I can really do, some very expressive kind of things with it. And then, these guys are totally into like MPE technology. So it's doing this whole, polyphonic expression thing as well. So I could control an MPE synthesizer with this and get independent pitch bends and independent touch. And
that's a nice sound.
It's really nice. The speakers actually sound really good. Anyway, it's just a pretty cool little tiny device.
And how nice is it that it just, this new kind of interface, like I've never seen anything like that shape. And, and it just, it turns you into like almost like a kid with that new kind of sense of play.
Yeah. And what's nice about it, what I'm most excited about with this product is that it's not only something that could be looked at as like a fun toy, something to just give to somebody who's just about to start making music, but they are really considerate of the more like high-end kind of musical experience. As somebody who spent a lot of my life interested and involved in how do you connect your physical being with the musical instrument, and how do we use technology to advance that experience. This does that, because you just touch it so lightly, it's there, and you do you feel like, wow, it's almost like I have to just think about it, it's going to happen. It just creates this experience for your touch, and that's very advanced, because you don't find a lot of the higher end musical instruments that that are out there that have that. A lot of the contacts they're using, and they come from China, who knows where they come from, but but a lot of those experiences, they'll have a lot of other great things about the instrument, but you're kind of like, wow, it's not really responding to my touch. It doesn't feel connected. An instrument like the Continuum, like Lippold Haken, who makes the Continuum, has for years. He built an instrument that's incredibly beautiful, in the sense that you just put your hand on it and you just move, and you go, wow, this is extremely organic. This is the next level of how to connect my physical touch with an instrument. Of all the physical kind of like MPE instruments, I would say that's one for people to really understand that Lippold figured out how to do that. Very really, really important. Back in the old days, when he first invented that instrument and I first saw it, I worked with Lippold on the pitch intelligence of the instrument, because a fretless instrument is cool, but playing out of tune is not cool.
Yeah.
So and how many years does it take, and how many hours every day for how many years does it take a violinist to learn to play in tune and make a nice sound? I'd like the technology to kind of assist with that. It's 2021, so come on, there's a lot we can do. So I worked with Lippold on this kind of intelligent pitch thing, where I asked him to not only be able to round the pitch on the initial press of a key. So as soon as you hit it, even though it's a fretless instrument, when your finger goes down, it's going to play the note that you're closest to. And that's cool, but that's not really enough, because when you press the note, you want to do a comfortable, smooth vibrato. But when you slide to another note, that's where the magic begins, because you slide from C to G and you get there, and it's a little flat, it's a little sharp. And we worked on an algorithm, so when you reach your destination, it pulls you into pitch at your desired rate. I mean, of course, there's a default kind of magic rate to that, but it'll pull you in. You'll be in pitch, and then you can vibrato from that spot. So you can kind of go into what I call the Steve Vai, Jet Beck mode of really cool pitch bending on the Continuum, and it works really well. And as I was developing that, I also worked with guys in the iOS world to bring that idea of pitch intelligence into some of the apps that I was working on, which now has caught on to a lot of different products. Dare I say that I don't really see it as well implemented as in something like GeoShred, which is my kind of latest greatest music app. It's become a very serious musical instrument for iOS, and soon for desktop and other platforms.
Well, that was something I noticed about GeoShred, was that you do play the actual pitch. It's like you said, I've played on like fretless basses, and what a difference. You think you know how to play like an instrument like the bass or the guitar, and then you take the frets away and you realize you don't know what you're doing at all.
Whoa, yeah, like really, really hard, sure.
But it kind of knows you meant this note.
Yeah. I think it's really, really important. You especially see it when you hear it when you listen to some of the guys who are playing like Carnatic music, the guys from India who are like GeoShred players. It's like serious, because they're doing incredible things with pitch bending, and it's, in tune, and it's slidey and vibrato, and it's like these amazing things are happening, and they all love it because you can really do it. It's like the second most popular territory for the instrument in the world. Of course, versus the US. But the guys who are playing the thing there are phenomenal.
Well, I could see with all the kind of pitch bending, and even like the different tunings, the different notes, how that would be really appealing in that
we
world.
have like hundreds of Indian scales all different shapes and sizes, and there's scales that it's different, going up and going down, and they're indicated with different colors, and you can kind of do that as well. So if you're into tuning, it's definitely it's a cool area to go into and explore, because it really works. And then now we partnered with a company called Audio Modeling that has some of the best physical models that are available anywhere for like solo instrument sounds. They're just so beautiful. Violin and cello and oboe and clarinet and flute and saxophone. They're just like incredibly, beautiful sounds. Very and really expressive too.
I think this movement towards MPE and I guess eventually MIDI 2.0 is really exciting. Ableton Live is now on 11 and they're supporting MPE. I've got the Prophet 6 right here next to me, and they just released their official MPE supported, firmware.
Did they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So it responds to like the different pressures and after touches. And
wow.
I don't have any kind of or I have the morph, the Sensel morph, which has the capabilities. I haven't tried to hook it up yet to the Prophet. So I'm excited to see how the notes and the like slide works with it.
And how do you enjoy the Sensel morph? But just curious what your experience is.
Yeah, I
have
think
one too.
It's really cool. It's amazing. I think though now that we're seeing MPE like in live and in a lot of other things, Logic has had it, I believe, for a while now, but I think now it's really like taking on a new significance. So it's pretty exciting to see that. And
I mean, but the interesting thing about MPE is that it deserves all the buzz. It's really important to have expression like that. But there's a funny reality with it, and I'm sure you can relate to this, which is that most people struggle to play basic, like piano music. Like just put your hand on, a series of major chords, or play accurately, or play a piano piece, whatever way you want to think about that. If you start adding the ability for every finger that goes down to have individual expression, oh my God, that's a little scary. Like when you see people play like the seaboard for the first time, the Rolly seaboard, which is an incredible invention. My friend Roland Lamb just said, some lightning bolt from above came down and sparked this amazing idea. But you see people play it for the first time, and pianists, and they're like, whoa, you play a chord and everything is moving, and you go, holy shit, this is, I don't know what to do here. Like some keyboard players are very thrown off because they're not used to every little move up or down side doing something. I mean, you can put the seaboard in a mode where no matter what you do, it just plays the quantized pitch, but that's not really the idea of it. So it does make for a more difficult experience, a deeper experience also, like for somebody like myself, maybe like who's been playing piano and keyboards for, however, I won't say how many years because that will date me, but for so many years, it's a cool thing because although I'm still practicing scales on the piano and arpeggios on the piano, it adds another level of complexity, and I welcome it because, okay, I've been doing this for a long time. Let me see what happens if every finger that I put down is going to do something. I can play a note and bend this pitch with this finger while I'm trying to hold this in place and not move it. That's like a whole nother.
Yeah.
It's like you could develop a whole book of canon exercises where you move this one up or down and the others stay, very still, because on the seaboard it will matter. When you play GeoShred and you do the physical models that we have now, they're solo voices. So there you're getting like, you're able to, I don't know if you can see this, but there you're getting like expression within single note. A little easier to. You don't have to think about you're thinking about one note at a time and fading it out very nicely, and that's the kind of touch expression you want when you start doing it polyphonically, which you can do with some of this with the internal sound of GeoShred. By the way, it's polyphonic MPE, but that gets more complicated.
Yeah.
a lot of guys, I see a lot of guys doing like movie scores and stuff like that with it. You know, they can play one low thing and then they can just kind of move their hand around and it creates this really like, wow, what the hell is going on there? That's so cool. And with Equator 2, which is Roly's new software, the sound designers at Roly are really, really great. My friend Raphael, who's been there for a long time, he really knows how to dial in the experience of that touch on that instrument to maximize what's going on there. Anybody who has a Seaboard who doesn't have Equator 2, it's going to take your experience to another level. And if you like put your Seaboard off to the side for a little while, you're going to get it out and play it and go, okay, well, that needs to stay like in front of me for a while, because it's really, you know, an amazing experience. I was blown away. It's just all the interaction that's happening and the cool sounds, because Equator 1 was cool, but Equator 2 is probably the best, you know, MPE synthesizer that I've ever tried.
I could see how that is. I did get a chance to put my hands on a Roly a couple times, and it almost felt like instead of standing on the ground with your feet, you're like on two planks of wood on water. And you know, your legs are kind of spread.
Yeah, because if you have any trouble playing like regular keyboard, think about it. It's just, you know, that's what's going to happen. But, you know, but that said, I mean, the Roly is an important instrument. The Seaboard is a very important instrument for our times, and it needs to be recognized. It needs to be seen, enjoyed, played. I mean, you know, my only wish with that is that people will, you know, the right people will kind of realize how important it is, and, you know, one way or another facilitate, you know, that technology to grow to the next level. I mean, I'd love to see, you know, the next Seaboard, and of course Roland would, and everybody who's been involved would, but there's a lot of, you know, there's complications on many different levels, business-wise, creatively figuring it out and all that. But it does need to be, at some point, in some way, it will be, you know, brought to the next level, and I really welcome that.
Well, one of the fun things about watching you play in Dream Theater is your setup and your rigs. You've got your tilting keyboard that it's the whole rotating, and it really makes, you know, because I always kind of felt for the keyboard player, right? Like as a guitar player, you can run around the stage, you can, you know, move around. But the keyboard player was always kind of stuck. And you've managed to come up with some interesting implementations. Are you using some of this MPE stuff at this point?
Well, I use on stage. I've used the Seaboard. I've used my Seaboard to do like things like sax solos and stuff, like Images and Words has a song, Another Day. At the end, it has a sax solo. The best way for me to do it is on the Seaboard. So I'll use that. And I use GeoShred. I've got an arm off of my stand that comes down, and I play GeoShred. So that whole kind of like stage presentation was born out of a couple of things. Number one, the musical part of it, where, you know, as somebody who's always been really into the technology and has kind of taken the deep dive into a lot of these instruments that come out to figure out what can they really do, my desire has always been to express myself as much as possible on whatever the most powerful keyboard of the time would be. So whether it's a K2600 Kurzweil or a Korg Oasis or, you know, a Korg Kronos these days, I'm looking at that like, okay, give me everything you got, because I want to be able to focus on this one 88-note keyboard and split the keyboard and layer it and do all these cool things and have sound effects on the low key and French horns in my second finger and Taurus bass pedals in my pinky, and then choir and brass and this, you know, like I want to be able to just do it all. And so, you know, I'll do all the sampling, I'll do whatever programming is necessary to make that work. And the reason I do that is because, first of all, these keyboards are very powerful, and they usually do a lot more than most people even understand. And I kind of take the approach of using that power, but also because I don't want to be lifting up my hands in the middle of a phrase. If you know, the reality is that if you go and you see, you know, a lot of these prog keyboard players who play with 7 or 8 keyboards, it looks amazing, and, you know, it can sound really great too. But I have very little interest in lifting up my hands before a phrase is done to go to another keyboard. And I much prefer, I'm on this keyboard, and I could go, and every time I hit the next downbeat, I'm on a new sound.
Right.
That enables me to do what I really want to do. Because in Dream Theater, I might have like 500 combination changes a night. I'm seamlessly going from this big layer to another one, and everybody's like, how is that even happening? It's still, a big mystery to people to how that kind of smooth transition of sounds is happening. And it was kind of born out of the intent that I had in being able to play like that, because even the driving home of the request that the companies think seriously about not panicking, not interrupting the sound between combinations or even programs. That's not something they naturally did. The synthesizer manufacturers were like, okay, you got a piano sound, and then you switch, and then you got your string sound, and everything, glitch or stop, or silence. They got it to a point where it was very fast, but that's not good enough, because I'm playing along. I got this huge reverb on this pipe organ sound, and I'm switching to a choir. I don't want the reverb to stop. I mean, live, for some years I got away with it because cymbals are ringing, whatever. Finally, after being, probably on the front lines, let's say, of talking to the manufacturers and saying, guys, we need to figure out how to make the transitions absolutely smooth. You cannot interrupt the sound. It's almost like I wanted to get a t-shirt, like, don't interrupt the sound. High priority. I remember the day that one of my buddies at Korg said, okay, the next instrument is actually going to have full, like, patch reserve. You'll be able to have all the effects, all the sounds, everything. Hang on, doesn't matter. And so you're not going to get any interruptions in the sound. I was like, yes. So now, here we are, in this day and age, and it is possible to, have this amazingly smooth performance. I think, as like a keyboard, the part of me that's like, the keyboardist in Dream Theater, I've got like the ultimate setup right now in many ways, because I can have all the sounds I need, and they sound amazing, whether there's pianos or strings or horns or choirs or If they don't come in the instrument, I'll sample them in, and there they are. And I can switch completely seamlessly. So, where's it go? This is a whole other discussion. Where is it going as far as this kind of gig goes? Like the Dream Theater kind of keyboard gig that I do. We're at a very high point in it. No longer are we playing like cheesy sounds. No longer do we have interruptions in the sounds. No longer do I not have the right effects, because the effects are amazing. There's still things for another discussion that, I would like, but it's amazing that we got to this point.
Well, it's awesome that guys like you are in touch with the people making the instruments and saying, hey, this is what I need. This is what I need. And not only that, but you're also creating your own stuff too. That it's really solving a lot of problems for so many musicians.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, for me, it's just a fun opportunity. It's just so, I'm just into it. So the fact that, in my life, I got to a point where my voice has some, makes some difference and matters. That's cool. It's just another aspect of what I really like to do. I just am passionate about musical instruments. I'm passionate about the way they work. And if somebody cares, like what I think about it, then, that's great.
I love it. It's a great service to us all. It really is. Much appreciated. Now, I know you got to get going. Cool. You guys are working on some new material, and that's exciting. I don't want to interfere with that. So, of course, we can send people to jordanrudess.com. I would say hit up the YouTube. Check out the Patreon, too. I'll have all these links in the show notes.
Yeah. I will add, because it's very timely, that during this whole like lockdown and this scary time of life, I, as kind of like what I was saying before, one of the things I would do is I would kind of go out to my outside studio where I do a lot of the album kind of work that I do. And I got really into expressing myself with some really ambient kind of gentle, spacey, like piano sounds. I discovered some interesting like piano libraries, like Native Instruments Noir, and some heaviosity piano stuff, and different things. And I got I created this album that's going to be kind of like announced soon. I'm just waiting for the artwork. It's going to be called A Chapter in Time. And really pleased with it. It's probably some of the most like simple music in a way that I've ever done. It's really, really chill. It's very gentle, thoughtful, kind of ambient music. So yeah, we'll just putting the message out here
that's
for
cool.
you guys today.
You've documented the mood of our historic little chapter of time we've been going through.
Right.
I like that.
Sure.
That's nice. I look forward to that.
Awesome. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Jordan. I love talking to you, and I love your work, and I really especially appreciate your contribution to the advancement of music technology in general.
Great. Awesome. Nice to talk to you. And I don't know when you're going to air this, but we should also tell people that on March 26th, the new Liquid Tension Experiment 3 comes out after 22 years, which is really crazy and really exciting because it really turned out well. And there's a couple of videos online too, which people can enjoy, some singles that we've released ahead of the game.
Yeah, we'll definitely let people know.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone for listening. Have a great day.
Awesome. All right.